My for once not nightmare-riddled dreams came to an abrupt end as I heard gunfire.
Girls, we're under attack!
I was muttering half awake, poking Scattershot and Compound sides as they were snuggled up to me.
Really?
Gosh darn it.
And within a few moments, we were outside of our sleeping area. The turrets of our newly founded settlements were facing guns from...
Hills to the north! Raiders! Dozens of them! Crap, why they always tangling with us?
What the heck? They got rods?
These raiders seemed a little bit more serious or desperate. They had little hover carts, armed with some sort of machine guns that were just barely visible in the nightly and cloudy skies. Some of our newer turrets roared to life as they got closer, some sort of lightning shenanigans which the Griffins had left us with. Blue projectiles of sorts which sounded like peeling an electric plaster. They were a few hundred meters away now and tried their best at dodging, but their luck ran out, as one of them got struck by an electrical charge, making that pony's vehicle detonate on the spot in a fiery and admittedly beautiful explosion. I spotted about 20 vehicles as I peered into the distance. Ponies from the settlement were rushing into the bunker to get some pretty sizable firearms. I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between any of those anyway.
MP-46, now that's how you answer raiders.
Scattershot put down a weapon she was given and carefully peeked out behind the barricade, as another volley of shots was landed onto it.
Getting another gun usually is quicker than reloading.
I knew I couldn't use some of the strongest spells in my arsenal, but I was going to do whatever I could to make sure those raiders learned to not take us as targets on a shooting range. Time to do this home style!
What are you up to this time, sweetie? Oh.
I was leaning over the barricade, bringing up a shield spell of mine, and was focusing my magic for a quick second before shooting a few more potent fireballs in the direction of the invasion, essentially becoming a turret of my own accord.
A volley of a dozen fireballs, as well as a few more direct hits from my turrets, quickly took down their numbers.
You really don't know how to miss, do you?
I heard Scattershot and winked at her. 3 of them were left as they got closer, within about 100 meters, and they were driving straight for the barricade and attempted to take down a turret of our own.
Yeah!
Compound threw a bottle in their direction. Her mysterious bottles did make her quite the interesting mare, to say the least. She looked badass. I shook my head. I had to focus, but for these last riders, I opted for something less destructive, and I had a plan most important. The bottle broke into a huge puddle of yellow liquid, and the hovercarts immediately stopped and crashed to the ground as they drove over, sending the raiders flying in our direction, and with no firearm to immediately aim at us.
Damn! Now that's how you stick it to 'em.
Scattershot giggled, and Compound just rolled her eye, at the worst pun since the dawn of days. Ponies from behind the barricade got closer to the 3 raiders, guns drawn, and looking at their dumb faces.
Let's see why they chose us out of all places.
We followed the rest of the settlement. We had to make sure none of them had a grenade on them for the quick way out, which they didn't seem to have. Game over, you scum! Why you always gotta shoot up others instead of making life? The red earth pony who we had left in charge of things here was the first to raise his voice at the 3 who were admittedly lucky to be still alive, but I wanted this. Maybe we could find out about their whereabouts, or at least to make them fight us.
Well, we heard about this place and how the prison was turned, and we were on their payroll, so we tried to take it and make it ours.
Just kill us already. Didn't know settlements had freaking fireball turrets. What crap is that? I looked back at my rear, seeing Scattershot having given it a slap and winking at me, and I smirked back before looking back at our captors. It's what happens when you don't fight something your size. I snarled at them.
That's being a chicken without the feathers.
Obviously, we had to come up with something to do with them, and I wasn't blood hungry, so we had a few options. Not all of them were safe.
I'd swear I'd kill you if I had a gun.
The third guy was pissed. He really didn't seem like he wanted to be around us, and I'm sure if we took him in to join us, he'd probably take unnecessary lives, but we had to make sure we convince him otherwise.
I've been a raider for most of my life, and it sucks. Just knocking on ponies to live another day and risking getting killed in the process. That's what I used to live, but now I know better.
It's a lot easier to just lay back and enjoy yourself to daily food instead of having to take it from some pony every day, and then going hungry for weeks.
Who sent you?
Our Earth pony friend was holding the barrel of a gun at one of them. It clicked, which I think meant something along the lines of that it was ready to shoot, but don't quote me on that one.
Well, our boss is dead. He is probably in one of the carts.
That did make sense. Usually raiders don't attack this numerous. This was no scouting or quick occupation. They had to have come here to settle here for good. These stallions were looking for a home. Just as I thought things had calmed down, and they were thinking about what they were gonna do next, the brown unicorn pulled out a small pistol from his mane, but he didn't even get to hold it for a second as he got riddled with bullets by some of the ponies of the settlement. Damn.
So, anyone else want to try something?
That raider probably wanted to go out fighting, and dead, than living in peace. How quickly a peaceful night can turn into a life and death situation. Crap, Blaze, Buck! There was bloodstains on both of the captors, but if anything, this was nature's violent and just charm. Survival of the fittest. Lose your control, and you become someone's prey.
So, what do you want us to do, huh? Live here and, then what?
I threw the purple oath pony some bread from earlier, to show him we really were serious about being the better option, versus raider life. He immediately got down to munching in disbelief. That ponies he wanted to kill minutes ago were not bloodthirsty.
Wow, what's this? You just gonna kill us when we don't look, right?
I got close to the guy.
Honestly, if I wanted you dead, you would have already joined your raider friends in the afterlife. That, and you got about 4 dozens of ponies who could have also killed you if they really wanted to. But they didn't.
I threw the yellow unicorn some bread as well, and very closely was watching the firearm from his dead friend. His magic was glowing and...
This is good.
So, what does someone do to join this nice place?
Well, we do have friends who run a factory. What if you work for them for a few days and then you could join us?
The two stallions were looking at each other, contemplating life choices, and it seemed not like some ultimate revenge plot, from what I could see. Luckily, by now, we managed to make friends in many places, including a flock of griffins who supplied us, as well as a factory whose horrible tale of slavery and full labor was ended by me and the 2 girls. With our 2 raiders here, I wanted to see if they could handle some honest work before letting them live here. It is, after all, quite the different lifestyle.
If it's really that life-changing, and we don't have to risk losing our heads anymore to life, why Tartarus not?
Yeah, so I guess you could use our hover carts if you want for the time being. Just, how do we get to that little factory of yours?
I grinned on the outside, but was ecstatic on the inside.
With one quick teleportation spell, sure. I think 3 days is enough, and say hi to them for me.
They had that, he has to be crazy, or how does that even work, look on them.
We got you, don't worry. We've been taking care of troublemakers since forever.
And you don't have to go around killing your own kind because your own pride and lack of guts prevents you from asking.
After a long and noticeable sigh,
Touché.
We got things ready, but first... Compound dumped some weird, smelly liquid onto them and the hovercrafts, making the stuff, akin to ultra glue, vanish in an instant. That mare had tricks up her sleeve, to say the least.
You're crafty, to say the least, and you all made this on your own?
It's what you can get with a little bit of elbow grease and, some faith in good things.
Compound was looking at me as she faced me, and was blushing like a ripe tomato. Fortunately, it was still rather dark, so it was not likely to be seen. That yellow stallion who wanted to kill us earlier, at this point, he was genuinely intrigued how all this came to be, and it was a hard-fought battle, but as always, as nature's #1 rule says, it was survival of the fittest.
Okay, hold on, boys. I told them while I was charging up some long-range teleportation into the factory grounds. I remember the little kids, whose friendship we gained. I was hoping they were as happy as they were when we left them. My horn started to sparkle and shine brightly like a star in the night sky. And I released once, maintaining the momentum, and then released onto the second pony, bringing them both into the factory in the blink of an eye.
Phew, glad that's done.
The medical little colt I remembered clearly reacted to the whole situation. I quickly got out my special book from my saddlebag, being my writing book, and wrote into it with an ink and quill. 2 new workers, letting them work for a few days, and make sure to let me know how they handle it. I closed the book and just started to wait, but not even 2 minutes later, I found my book vibrating, with the pony on the other side, whose name was Ruby, who had answered very, very quickly.
We have never been producing more, and I will make sure they get into it.
Compound read aloud, still visibly fascinated about this magical artifact of a book. It was technically a pair of books that communicate with another, wondrous magical incantations. With a few more words of goodnight to the other ponies, we quickly got back into the shack, and me and the girls got comfy again in our bed. Snuggling up to those two was cuddlier than any blanket could ever dream of being.
What a ruckus, but heck, living in alongside you two is my kind of life.
Scattershot gave both me and Compound kisses.
Yeah, both you changed my life for the better. You're sweet, adorable, and totally badass.
Me and Scattershot scrunched our noses in visible protest. You more than me! I poked Compound's sides, and gave my sweet mare some very lasting tongue kisses. You two decided this crazy alicorn was not crazy enough to try and change this world, and you are both cute as can be. I could barely finish my sentence before feeling Compound's warm mouth as she licked the inside of my wings. That felt way too good.
He really likes that a lot, doesn't he? Oh yeah, and soft enough to cheat on any pillow.
I held them in my wings before we drifted off into a very magical night together. Those sweet eyes, those soft noses, snuggly and soft to the touch. I could never get enough of them. The smell of those two was more calming than any camp. After a few moments and drifting into dreamland, all I felt was this inner peace, that everything was gonna go well. I saw a rebuilt Equestria from the ground up. A bright future, but a better future than before the war. These kind of things can reaffirm your bonds and remind you of who you were and who you came from, and what you can achieve together. Griffins, dragons, zebras, and many more, all working together towards a common interest of helping each other out. That was worth fighting for, and the path there seemed in reach. Then I had this feeling of lifting off the ground against my will, and before I knew it, I woke up to Compound kissing my chest and looking right into my eyes.
Morning, big guy.
Morning, sweetheart. I held her close. Scattershot, however, was still napping. She was easily the deepest sleeper out of the three of us. Compound's sweet mint-colored hose wandered up to my face and brought me in for a sudden kiss, after which I felt a lick on my neck as our gun-nut mare was nuzzling me.
Love waking up like this every morning.
After a few very magical moments this morning, we finally got out of bed and got everything ready for the day. Our next big plan was to take down a facility which had ties to the Enclave, and possibly a way to get up there above the skies. All I knew is we wanted to scout that place thoroughly before we went in. We had little intel other than those who tried to take it before Hoof found themselves dead. The ghoul science pony we brought to the settlement came up to us as well. So, my idea is we get some good info about the place and then come back and figure out how we take it best. Us three usually work best when we infiltrate things rather than a full-fledged attack.
I do have the coordinates of where they do hide, but not more. They did wanted an army for takeover.
Goddesses know what they got there and why they've been so busy hiding for years. All I ever hear is rumors about why they closed the skies. That and they, They probably have crazy tech in there that could be really helping pony folk, and that's dangerous in their hooves. You think they want to take this land with an army, don't you?
Compound turned her head over to our ghoul friend here, who just nodded. They wanted to have big, huge invasion, but they did not like my research and created ghouls.
Well, it means we gotta move before they groove.
They're probably looking for other army.
Then it's up to us to put a stop to their plan and maybe see if, they have some special plans for what they're gonna do above the clouds. And maybe also find out what's happening above the clouds. No pony has been up there in centuries.
After a few more words, we got every pony together for a little strategy meeting to discuss what we were up to. I drew an improv map of the necessary spots. First, a cross, where we were. Then the railroad between Manhattan and Canterlot, and finally, the abandoned station building, which was now presumably under Enclave control, as a way to oversee and possibly seize control of the wastelands.
We did get those hover carts up and running from yesterday. They're good as new.
Those did give us some pretty colorful options when we came in for a direct move, but for this first surgical step, we needed to be stealthy, unseen, precise, and especially needed some sort of visual equipment like binoculars and scopes, preferably with no electrical signature. You make progress for science, you do that, not even me seen them.
Also, if you find any new technology, bring it to us so we can figure out what those flappers above the clouds are up to.
I nodded firmly. I was smiling on the inside. Not only was there gonna be action and thrill, but I felt like we were taking a leap towards solving one of the biggest mysteries of the wastelands.
We did find some electronic stuff like...
He gave me what looked like a tiny periscope at first.
These can actually record footage and, more importantly, get readings of any shields in the vicinity. Pretty spicy, huh?
Wow, that sounds awesome. I felt like a little kid in a toy store. I had no clue on the matter of electronics, which is why that stuff fascinated me all the more.
We did make that stuff just for the sake of you two returning here. Y'all gave us a better life, and, we kinda wanna prove ourselves useful, too.
I graciously accepted their gift. It was amazing to see what ponies could do when they got their hooves together. As I was looking at my map that I left behind, I looked at the topography, and a strategy started to come up. The place was once a train rail leading from east to west, mountains in the north and just a minor swamp in the south.
How about we ride close to the mountains from the west, but not too close to avoid any mines, just seeing if they have any defenses on that mountain, and avoid those. Maybe we can find some other way in that ponies have yet to find.
We can use those hovercrafts to get there. Good thing those are quiet like a breeze. Also, let's make sure that if we really get spotted, to silence any ambush forcefully. Gonna be a lot harder to sneak in if they know what they're looking for.
I packed everything into my bag that I needed. My book, a few magic and health potions, my magic ward, the magic frequency reader, and of course the fancy periscope, which I didn't have a name for. I did also have that little pistol I was given ages ago from Scattershot that I still have no clue on how to use properly. Oh well. And all my other stuff that I carry around, like a random grenade, and of course my precious memory orb.
Every pony ready?
All set, Bet.
Scattershot had a bag which was mainly filled with ammo and not much more. Compound was busy, filling liquids into certain vials. Looked like someone was pouring rainbows, although, knowing that mare, it's probably not so pretty to ingest those things. It was fascinating to say the least. She was magical in many, many ways.
And, done.
You sure you want to do this? I mean, it's dangerous and folks don't come back from there.
Interceptor, as our technical savvy Earth pony was called, addressed his worries, but I grinned widely, knowing I've attempted worse. And if our scouting went well, the actual invasion would be a lot more plausible. The trio of me, Compound, and Scattershot climbed into one of the hovercrafts. Those things were surprisingly easy to steer. It was a little cuddly to fit 3 ponies into one, but you already know neither of us minded that.
We'll have some fresh cider ready when you're back. I hear the boys in the bunkers found a way to cultivate some apple trees in your soil.
I gave him one last nod before we drove off. This hovering thing had one very nice side effect. Mines have a hard time triggering if you're floating high above the ground and are this fast. Quite a few hours passed in our little cart. It was an amazing feeling. Like we were zooming past all of our worries and everything was gonna go well. It was gonna be a step closer to a big milestone, and maybe getting Equestria together for good. What a dream come true opportunity. It was dark and gloomy, and dusty around these parts. Deserted and everything. That would make quite the area to hide a base in. Just as I started to spot the mountain range after what felt like forever, I stopped a few meters in front of it and decided to park our vehicle inside of an old bush and hide it under some tumbleweeds around. Those thorny things are not hard to lift for anyone with a little bit of magic. I got out my electroscope, as I had named it, and started looking through it. That thing was a lot more amazing than I gave it credit for. Through it, you could see even things like light sensors, like from the hovercraft itself. I looked up towards the mountain and didn't see anything from the angle we approached it besides rocks, boulders, and rubble.
Ready, every pony?
Ready!
I looked at the girls and we hoof bumped each other before getting a move on.